Any further with this project, we ought to take a few moments to take the code that we've created and get it synced up with GitHub and get a repository listening on our code so that we can go back and look at any changes we've made. This screen is a little confusing. I have three windows open here. This first Finder window is my repos-git folder. This is where I've told the GitHub client that all of my GitHub folders are going to be stored. And you can see I have a number of folders in here. You probably just have one or zero. The second window I have open is my GitHub client window, the GitHub desktop client. And I have all my repos that show up here and a couple that I haven't published yet. And you can see that this list corresponds with this list here. The third window I have open is a regular Finder window with my boilerplate directory. And these are the files I just created a moment ago. So in order to get these synced up with GitHub, I need to create a new repository. So from the GitHub client, I'm going to click the plus button to add a repository. This is the same as adding a repository here. So I will choose, so I will just simply click the plus button, and oh, this is actually asking me to create a repository. And I'm going to name this repository EG boilerplate, and I'm going to click create. Now you may have noticed that the folder, I have an unpublished repository down here in my client pane, and in my Finder window I now have a new directory inside my repos git folder called EG boilerplate. And right now this directory is empty except for the git listener, which I don't need to pay any attention to. So what I need to do is move the files I created in the last step into this new folder that's been created by the GitHub client. I'm going to do that by navigating to that folder and selecting the files that are inside of it and copying them. Now I'll copy those files, move them into my boilerplate directory simply by pasting them. And as you can see now, these files have been added to my repository, and if I open up my GitHub client window, these files have now all been marked as a change inside the directory. And I can take a look and see what's included in each of these files. So my next step is to commit these changes. There are 7 of them, and they're all checked. Commit these changes to the record that GitHub keeps of everything that happens. So I need to add a summary for the change. I'm going to call this the initial commit. And as a description, I'm just going to say this initializes the repo. And I'm going to click commit to master. As you can see now, these changes all show up in a summary form in the window, and a new node has been added in the timeline. If I click on that, I'm now on the current node. This node has some changes that have been committed. So at this point, I am ready to publish these changes, and the publish repository dialog comes up. The name is already pre-filled for me, but I do need a description, and I'm going to call this boilerplate code for any project. And I will click publish on this repository. It now shows that these changes are being pushed to GitHub, and the folder has been moved to the published repositories in my client pane.